It's incredibly hard for me to pick just one project that I'm passionate about. I mean, my biggest passion is Zeega as a whole, as a project that's inspired by the idea of what can happen if the whole internet and people's creativity and how they can think about the web as a place that they can make their own, and how they can take the things that are out there and then they can take the things that they themselves have and combine those in new ways. I just love the experience of experimenting and what we're trying to make happen with this project.
So this event was on human rights, universal, interdependent and interrelated. So the whole issue was to discuss how we can promote human rights with the current instruments and within the current framework.
I find it's important to hold side events as youth delegates to show presence first, that there are people, that there are young people first being concerned, being interested, and then also being constructive.
We had many different discussions on the issue, also since we're coming from different study backgrounds, and we thought why not make a panel discussion that reflects those different approaches towards human rights.
Our colleague from UN Women, Dane, was pretty eloquent at promoting the universality and the need to keep the universalism in mind if we want to reach a more inclusive world.
Is to start to appreciate the universality of duties alongside the universality of rights, because it is through that we recognize a universalism of everyone having a responsibility to respect the rights of each other. Without that, human rights is actually a far narrower thing.
Dominic Packer, talking about identities, about the formation of identities and how social norms can affect change and can affect institutional change.
What I study are group identities, how people define themselves in terms of the groups that they belong to, how those groups can be formed. The human species is a very groupy species. We like groups. Some of the best parts of life are in groups.
Maya Saoud spoke about her advocacy lab. It's an amazing project, a grassroots project here in New York, looking at how you can promote human rights education amongst young people.
False charity to me is doing something that you think is seeking out to help, right? But in fact, what you're doing is addressing the issue on the surface.
And then Leo Castillo, our colleague from OHCHR, sort of give us an overview of how we got there in terms of human rights instruments, really emphasizing the cumulative approach.
If you go back to the Universal Declaration, Article 15 says everyone has the right to nationality. Many countries around the world that actually have ratified international treaties, they do not recognize the mom passing on the nationality to their children.
So Ahmed Paul raised the issue of maybe some, difficulties and challenges of pushing for a certain agenda on LGBTQ, for instance.
That I have provided over and over again through the explicit inclusion of sexual orientation and gender identity in said declarations, resolutions, is that there are a set of characteristics that everyone exhibits. Heterosexuals, homosexuals, pansexuals. They don't pertain to any one demographic or a single group of people.
Why we invited the artists and also what they spoke about was the fact how multi-dimensional an identity can be.
I come from two sides of one coin that never stops spinning. The revolving door of change and revolution. Brooklyn is the mountaintop. Palestine, my bloodline, come from a culture of ambidextrous as they come.
I would say it was good because even if the side event couldn't deliver a specific answer to that topic, it showed up or brought up the complexity of that topic.
I loose my curls at night, lift the window, and leave myself on the screen. I read Lorca in the Spanish, pondering his beard of butterflies until I feel feminine enough to sleep.
it's entirely in comic book form. My dissertation was a comic book. And it's not a thing where I wrote a bunch of stuff and then said, let's find pictures for it. It's something that was created through the act of drawing and the act of writing as one. So I really very much, it very much argues for the importance of visual thinking and visual making, but its genesis was through that as well. So had I written a text document and later drawn it, it would have been a very different, I would have gone in different directions, discovered different things. Well, I think it always has been important, but it's not been accepted. I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, I think I lucked out in that I hit a time where comic books have been more accepted and people are embracing visual thinking at least a little bit more in schools and in higher ed. So I think I hit the right time where people were hungry for it, and I happened to have an argument that said why it mattered, and I was able to do it at the same time and have the support of my committee to go forth. So I think I think we are, as a larger society, recognizing that we make sense of things visually, and the more these messages aren't new. I mean, we've been reading about multimodality and visual, the aid intelligence, all those things have been around for a long time. Reception's been fantastic. I mean, it's already being used in classrooms from high school philosophy to graduate arts-based research to education method. I mean, it's been, I don't know how many total, but it's in a lot of diverse classes already. Reviews and all those things have been extremely favorable, so I'll take that. And I think there's just a big interest in it. I did an interview with a paper in Brazil, and they did a review in Germany. I think there's a hunger around the world to see different ways of what education can look like. I think there's a greater interest in comics now, so to see those two things kind of smashed together, I think people are excited about it, and I think hopefully not just the novelty, but what I actually did. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, because mine, on one hand, is popular culture and that it's comics, but I think the fact, and you asked about reception before, it's less seen as a comic. I mean, it's seen as a comic book, but it's more a comic book that's being read by non-comic book people than other things. But at the same time, obviously, pop culture, is being used in so many different ways. I mean, using superhero stories to look at morality, and looking at race and gender and those kinds of things through the lens of superhero movies or comics. So I think that's a really exciting time, because I think, these are things people sort of live in and breathe in, so to bring them into, to bring that kind of stuff that's part of their world already into classrooms. I mean, the thinking skills are the same, whatever you're applying it to. So I think it's only beneficial.
It's a place that's designed to be multi-use and multi-purpose. So right now you see it as kind of a cafe setup, coffee shop and food and drinks and stuff. If you were here 20 minutes earlier, actually probably when you arrived, you might have seen it set up for a workshop this morning. Inside here, all these same columns exist. They hold up the second and third floor, so we've added idea paint to them. Students really make them their own. We, at the outset, wrote a bunch of stuff on them to try to inspire folks, and now have to go through and erase fairly regularly so that there's room for growth. That QR code actually works and is awesome if anyone has a QR reader. Came in one morning and Devin, who's a student, was drawing that out with a ruler, and if you scan it, it says you have the power to change the world. There's tons and tons of AV in the space. I won't go through it all, but lots of screens. There's in-room HD cameras that do one-touch recording. These microphones do voice lift, so you can stand on that wall and talk and be heard just as clearly against the windows. Little tiny details that make quite a bit of difference. The chalkboard that you see up here on this screen, when we first opened the space, we had just the chalkboards in the center. In fact, we said we need more chalkboards. We said this is 2013. Any questions about this space, how we use it? What's the sound for? Yeah.
These walls, do you think?
They are not. And
take note.
Early on, a lot of people said every surface is writable, and that is in fact true, but it's not erasable. So this room is not, but there are all these whiteboards stacked in the corners.
The folks in the back of the room, that's really grown or become more stable, and you can see where over time that really, they play a larger and larger role in the kind of structured serendipity and all the things that happen. I'm just curious, is that the trajectory you're seeing?
As I said at the beginning, we're open ears and open eyes. I mean, we say all the time, and we still say it today, that we're putting the plane together as we're on the runway. And so in some of these cases, if a student has a great idea for something, we adopt it and try to go forward.
When I think of innovation spaces, the term that more comes to mind for me is creation spaces, which is both physical and digital. And the way I think about it is in terms of creation spaces as defined by Howard Pohl and John Hagel and Center for the Edge. And a big thing for them is learning faster, learning from each other. So the successes and failures luncheons was really interesting to me.
Could you define the term information quality?
No.
I never think about this before.
Information quality, what do I think about the term? I really know nothing of the term.
The quality of information?
Information quality is filtering the truth.
I was going to ask you that.
Specific.
Accuracy.
Accuracy of information.
Relevant is the first word that comes to mind.
Useful.
Integrity.
Current.
Reliable. Timeliness.
What you asked for.
It just have to be simple.
True.
Truth.
Verification.
Pertinent, which is a synonym of relevant.
From sources that, well, not only you can trust, but have some objective quality.
It's important to have high quality information to be an informed citizen.
There is so much information circulating around on the internet that's completely unverified.
Because it's going to be easier to live.
I happen to be a scientist, and so I'm really sort of concerned about the non-scientific nature of a lot of information that goes around.
The better information I have, it's going to make simple decisions, what to do, and more choices.
It just means that I'm accurately able to portray the events that I'm hearing about, without bias.
If you don't have high quality information, you can't make high quality decisions.
Today's event is the
first formal in-person kickoff since the DPLA has become live.
I think what today is all about is giving us a chance to reconnect with the DPLA community.
It's a very exciting moment in the history of this startup, and it's got lots of positive energy and lots of things we still have to accomplish.
We had thousands of people during the planning phase that were so important to creating what DPLA is today, and this gives us a chance to get back in touch with them.
I think DPLA is important for American democracy. In very simple terms, the creation of a national digital library system created by the private sector and public sector coming together will strengthen local communities and it will strengthen the way in which we participate in our democracy.
I think the key to DPLA's success isn't the technology, it's the social aspect to it. It's really a collaborative project, and we've been so lucky to have so many partners. Over, I think we are at 18 hubs, which are big aggregators of content, and over 1,000 different institutions that have been a part of this, contributing materials together, and so many other people who've contributed ideas, time, energy to the effort.
The title of the session was Using the DPL for Advanced Research, and we had, I thought, a really productive discussion about focusing a lot on how you could link the data and use the data, connect the data to, in the DPL to other available projects. I thought it was very productive and interesting.
I'm doing a think tank with 2 other co-leaders on the future of libraries, and it's a think tank, so it's very participatory.
The variety and diversity of the stuff that's in the DPLA is amazing. You can use it to expand the scope of the class and the research that I'm doing. I'm used to using research libraries that have a very specific focus, and the DPLA has a much more diverse body of materials.
What we've asked the groups, we've divided them into about 6 small groups to discuss the different issues. We gave them scenarios of possibilities for libraries in the future, and they've been charged to discuss the top issues and to come away with both a summary of their discussions as well as 2 items for a list. One, to be able to say what can be implemented immediately and what is a more futuristic implementation of a technology.
I guess my specific session, the only thing I'd have to say is what was really great for me is I'm not naturally a digital humanities person. This is where I'm coming from from a more traditional research perspective, and I thought it was a very welcoming and open discussion that allowed me entry in a way that I haven't seen in a lot of academic conferences, so I was really impressed.
It's just been an incredible day. We had 700 people sign up to come, and you can just feel the energy. When I got up on stage this morning, first thing, there was just a lot of smiles in the crowd, a lot of people who know each other, old friends and some new friends who have worked on the project, so I think it's wonderful to get together and have a chance to do this in person.
Well, I hope that people from many different walks of life, whether representing a particular community group from a particular racial background, or someone who is representing funders, or people who are representing large institutions, I hope that they will all see a place for themselves within the DPLA. This is a community-driven organization, and one where we want lots of participation from smart and devoted people who want to volunteer their time and their treasure, in the case of philanthropists, to make something that's truly in the public interest.
If someone hasn't had a chance to say hi, happy to do so. Pick up stuff on your way out, and thanks again.
What has technology inspired me to create? Technology encourages me to go beyond my comfort zone in what I learn.
Technology is still inspiring me to create a new kind of learning and education for younger generation.
It's also inspired me to get more youth voices out there.
To be creative.
Technology has inspired me to create, more than anything, new ideas.
Technology has inspired me to create a documentary video about my relatives in Europe.
I use technology to create an international news hub for people of my age and also younger people.
Today is the first day of the General Assembly. I feel very excited before I come to work today.
A lot of heads of states and civil society and representatives from NGOs and private companies, they all come together.
We're just ushering all the press, the photographers and the
videographers into the Security Council room. So every country from the 15 countries allowed one photographer and one videographer.
How you doing, Carlos? Nice to meet you. I've seen you around.
Oh, so I'm here to help the radio section to film the delegates, and they're gonna come to the radio station and do interview with the people here.
I'm helping the MALU, Media Accreditation Liaison Unit today. I'm helping them to escort the press to the JHAL, Trusteeship Council, Security Council.
It went really well, and I'm really excited to be here, and I got to see how the radio is made.
This room is called the UN Foundation Digital Media Lounge, which is hosted by UN Correspondents Association. So a lot of bloggers and reporters and correspondents, they come here and write their stories.
The social media team set up a social media zone, and we also set up a Twitter wall where the tweets were live streamed to this wall. But in order to get those tweets through, we also had to monitor the tweets.
I've been searching around to make sure this place is safe from explosives.
Why is it important that Hector's here? What does Hector do?
He's trained to find explosive, 7 different types.
The police will come and they will screen all the media, all the cameras and everything to take them to the Ban Ki-moon office.
I mean, there's never really a break here. There's not kind of an allotted break because everyone's coming into the doors all the time. Press are always wanting to be escorted somewhere, sometimes where they're not supposed to go, and that's what we're here to kind of delineate between.
Well, right now these journalists are heading over to a photo opportunity at a delegates luncheon here at the United Nations. So they're getting ready to go and sit with all the head of states that will be eating, and they're going to be snapping photos for their respective countries.
Yesterday I managed to somehow within the same hour run into both the President of France and Leonardo DiCaprio.
I got to see Leonardo DiCaprio.
Who are you more excited to see?
You know, honestly, at the moment, Leonardo DiCaprio, but in retrospect, I think it was the President of France.
I met Obama. I met different presidents. For example, I met the president from Turkey.
I bumped into a few presidents, and so it's good. And I'm Iranian, so I also saw the Iranian president.
Also the Prime Minister from Norway. She was lovely.
The highlight of the General Assembly week was to have all these world leaders, to have leaders from different industries come here and gather and discuss, talk about their actions.
You have an opportunity to be part of something that is huge, that is bigger than you.
Interns are genuinely, they love being part of this community.
It's just really cool to see something so important, so global happening right in front of your eyes.
I feel involved to the world and the global movement.
The most important thing, I think, that I'm learning a lot.
I think it's really great that the United Nations is basically an institution where so many people from different backgrounds and cultures work together.
It was just the biggest honor being able to volunteer for the General Assembly.
I had a really good time, and I think I'm gonna remember this week all my life.